welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yay. Tell me a little bit about you and about Scroobious. Would love for our audience to hear more about you.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I am an MBA and longtime startup builder and leader. And my newest venture, Scroobious, I founded just about a year ago. So I'm still definitely a fresh startup founder myself right now. And the idea for Scroobious came out of my last job where I co-ran a startup medical device company, and I was primarily responsible for fundraising when I was there. And we ended up raising almost 10 million, which sounds great, but it was a rough experience, which anyone who's done fundraising for a startup before can definitely relate to, especially if you're a woman or someone of color or anyone who identifies as underrepresented. It is a struggle. But what really caught my attention was how inefficient the beginning process of fundraising is. You send a pitch deck. And so the pitch deck is a static document, which our brains are really bad at interpreting and holding on to the information in them. And it's really easy to say no. So an investor can look at it really quickly. They don't get a sense for who you are at all as the founder of your company. And it's hard to, again, interpret that information in that format, and they pass. So if you are underrepresented, you often never get to a first meeting, which really is frustrating and a systemic disadvantage. Because if you do get to a first meeting, that's when you get to show your character. And that's when you get to show command over your domain. And you get to start building social capital, which is required to get to financial capital. So that really stuck with me, is why are we doing it that way? Why are we starting fundraising with this really impersonal first step when it is such a personal process? So what I do now with founders at Scroobious is I've taken my 20 years of pitching experience and I've put it into a program where I have online learning modules that are accessible asynchronous, so on the founder's time, and I pair it with one-on-one personalized feedback touch points along with a community of other founders to help founders get to an investor-ready pitch deck. So it includes the information investors are looking for, which is basically going through your business plan. And then we film a pitch video, because video is the right medium for a first interaction. And our videos pair the context and detail of your slides with the passion and authenticity of the founder presenting them. And then those videos we also will display on an investor portal. So for a founder, you kind of get the full experience of going from pitch creation through to exposure to investors who are looking to diversify how they source.
That's so phenomenal, Allison. When I met you, and I met you through Misha, one of our femmebought members who is currently fundraising and who raved about you and Scroobious and all of the support you give, because it is a daunting challenge for founders, for all founders, but women in particular. It's so daunting because we don't have a ton of role models. We don't have a ton of women investors. We don't have a ton of women who have gotten funding. And so the pool of people that look, can feel, and sound like us, that we might feel like we can approach, is much smaller. And so you're making fundraising approachable for women, which is what I love. And then take minority and underrepresented women and think about the funding that goes to them and the even smaller pool of role models that they have. And again, it's just making it so much more approachable for them. So that is something that we love about you, and I could go on and on. My next question for you is, as we've talked about, we're really excited because we think that what you do can help a lot of the women in our newly launched Impact Accelerator. And so I would love to hear from you in your words, based on kind of some of our conversations, how you think a partnership between us would be beneficial to the femmebought family.
Yeah, so I'm so excited about joining femmebought as a mentor and working together. I think it is such like we're so complementary and we're so aligned in our mission, and what you offer founders and women business owners is just fantastic because it is so needed. And what you said before is really true. When you don't see a lot of other people in your field who are like you, who you can relate to and who set a path for you or you can go to for guidance, it is so disheartening, and it makes it seem so much harder, right? And there's also something I talk about a lot called the repeated exposure effect, where just seeing something more makes it seem more prevalent and makes it seem more likely to happen, and actually encourages people to support that type of thing that you're seeing. So until we actually see more women get funding or start companies or lead successful businesses, it's that much more challenging to get there as a society without just getting repeated exposure. And that's so important. But for the founders or the business owners going through your program, these women having the type of all-encompassing support that you provide, and education and mentorship, is just phenomenal for them. And it is making a meaningful impact in how they can grow their business and obtain the funding they need. They need more than just me, right? Than just pitch help. I'm a piece of it, and a big piece of it for people who are fundraising. And together with all the other elements that you provide and surround these women with, it gives them that whole ecosystem that is critical to grow their companies.
I promise I didn't pay her to say that. But it shows something that is the essence and DNA of both femmebought and Scroobious, and that is support. We're building blocks. You and I, femmebought and Scroobious, we're the building blocks for founders. And you don't get to where you're going with one building block. You have to have many. And so bringing together some core fundamental building blocks. I mean, we talk about the fundamentals when we talk about investing, and it is an absolute must to have a good entry point into investors. In that, you also have to have the fundamentals behind your business, the financials. You have to have the growth, the strategy. You have to be able to show the sales. So all of the things that go into your pitch deck that Scroobious and Allison help with, we come in and our mentors, including Allison, are helping you behind the scenes get the information, get the successes that you're then going to showcase in the deck.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I mean, that's such a core element. When people think of a pitch deck, they think of it almost like marketing material, but it's not. You have to do the work behind what goes in it. It's showing your strategy, it's showing your traction, it's showing your thought process and your leadership as the owner or the founder of your company. And I think what is especially important for women is we tend to be more in like life science companies like Misha, or companies where we have domain expertise and not necessarily the business expertise. And without people helping you to show you what should be in that deck, and how do you correctly do pro forma financials, or how do you calculate a bottom-up market size, those are not natural elements for somebody who doesn't come from a business background. But it doesn't mean you can't do it. You just need someone to show you and help you through it, and then you absolutely can do it, because it's not as scary as it seems like it is. And so that's where that complement between femmebought and Scroobious is so awesome, because yeah, I give the framework and I help point that direction and tell you where you need, more in these areas to make it substantive. Substantive. Sorry, I've had one cup of coffee this morning. But you need that support network to help you build those like you said, those building blocks behind it. You can't take shortcuts there.
You said it so well. This is why I think we can see why we naturally gravitated towards one another. And I'm really excited that you are going to be a mentor to our upcoming class of scholarship recipients. And we won't, spoiler alert yet, who some of those women are, but it is coming up soon. So I want to just give you a chance, Allison. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about or tell us that we didn't ask?
Well, I'm particularly excited to mentor the scholarship participants. I think going into starting a company or owning a business, like you said, it is so daunting to begin with. But now, especially during the pandemic, where we're seeing them leave the workforce in droves, they're forced to, because that gender pay gap still exists. And so by definition, if we're not the higher income in a household, we have to leave and take on more of those home or childcare responsibilities, right? I'm a mom, I'm feeling it. It's a year of this, and even just the mental load that comes from living through this time is incredibly challenging for everybody, and it's not really talked about that much, particularly women or mothers who are in business. And so having the ability to go through a program like what you've put together with this femmebought scholarship and not worry about the additional financial load that brings, and having that access is just so critical. And I'm really pleased that I get to be part of that, and hopefully make a really meaningful difference in the lives of these women founders.
Thank you, Allison. I know you will. And you raised an excellent point about the childcare through the pandemic. So I'll touch on that, even though this is kind of like we're off script a little bit, but it is an important one, and something that we actually talk about. It's part of the Accelerator program. There are masterminds, and it's peer group strategy sessions and accountability. You have accountability partners. And part of the discussion on strategy and goals is, did we achieve them? Are we hitting our milestones? And some of it is I had to change my schedule significantly because I didn't expect that we would go back into lockdown and I would have to sit next to my child and make sure they were participating in class and not, playing with their toys. And so we're hearing a lot about schedule shifts, and that is something that where you and I come in, and the flexibility we provide within our programs, both of us, allow for that schedule shift and bringing seamlessly into your already busy life something that is not so onerous in time commitment to be able to do, both from the standpoint of the Accelerator program, which we say an hour to an hour and a half commitment a week, which is not onerous for an accelerator. And I know, Allison, that people can choose their schedule with Scroobious. And so maybe we'll go off script just for another minute and give you a chance to kind of talk about that piece of it, especially as a mom.
Yeah, I mean, that is so important. Even pre-pandemic, accelerators are often unapproachable for parents and moms in particular because of that challenge of a synchronous schedule that does not match you where you are in your life and the needs of your home. So I did purposely make my program structured so that most of it is asynchronous and it is on the founder schedule and they can access it when they need. And we meet them where they are, which I know you do similarly with femmebought. And it is what allows somebody to go through programming like ours and to be successful with it and not feel like they're failing, right? Or not feel like they're falling behind or they can't keep up. You have to have that asynchronous aspect so that it feels achievable and it is actually helpful and not just another program that we couldn't meet the needs of because all of a sudden our kids are home because their cohort at school now has to be quarantined or whatever life is throwing at you. So yeah, that's a huge element to what I do, and I know you do as well. And then the community aspect too, right? Having all my founders, and you do this too, having your participants have access to each other when they need and be able to lean on each other as a peer community. I look forward to that as being a mentor too, right? I am a female founder, so connecting with the other female founders in your accelerator is also peers for me. And that is, again, with that repeated exposure effect, you have to have that network of others who can relate to what you're going through so that you can lean on each other and hold each other accountable too.
Very well said. Very well said. It is so, it's so critical, the time aspect, and then having the peers where you can bounce ideas off of, where people are not just charging you another $1 for 15 minutes of their time. It's a barter system of time and ideas and brainstorming, which is beautiful. So I really appreciate you chatting with me today. And I think everyone listening, when they get a chance to listen, is really going to enjoy it. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting me to chat. It's always fun. And I love chatting with somebody else who is, authentically passionate about what we're doing and supporting the women that we do.